Daniel Andrews is lying to the people of Victoria and the media is helping him get away with it. No giant surprise. All last week, I've got a plan. I'll tell you about the plan. I'll release the plan. The other plan's not a real plan. This is the real plan. Here's the deal. These are the key things you need to know about what has been announced. In reality, the curfew will stay in Victoria not for 2 more weeks, but until the end of next month, until October 26. Regional Victoria is still going to be punished until mid-October at the earliest. Bars and cafes maintain being absolutely thumped by this Premier. They will be limited to just 10 people, even if we get to November. And when it comes to the reopening, I'm about to tell you a whole bunch of dates, but it's not really about the dates. It's about the cases. And the numbers are numbers that you don't just have to hit once, you have to hit for 14 days or for 28 days. Here's the Premier talking about his plan that the media said was so damn amazing. Reality, nothing really changes until maybe October 26. Roll the tape.
I apologise for the circumstances we find ourselves in. I apologise for the reality that we find ourselves in. But we can't change that. We can't simply wish that away. This job, the honour that I have to lead our state, is about making tough calls, but it's also being accountable. And I'm 100% accountable for where we find ourselves, but equally I'm accountable for getting us to the other side of this.
Now, we should have been able to say see you next Tuesday to this virus months ago. But because of the behaviour and the decisions of Andrews and his government, there was a second wave. Hotel quarantine has worked where there are thousands of people that are coming from overseas. Currently in Sydney, there are 4,500 people. The system didn't work not because the people of Victoria did the wrong thing, but because Daniel Andrews did the wrong thing. The Liberals were right last week to stand in the way of this bloke getting unfettered power for another 6 months. And because of what I'm about to explain to you, this is why he wasn't willing to go month to month. Because we are talking about the end of October, most likely November, before anything starts to resemble the Melbourne that so many people live in and so many of us love. Here's the Liberals' response.
Victoria's contact tracing system is frankly third world. It just simply isn't fit for purpose. It's why we have been in this prolonged second wave for months and months now. Now, we shouldn't have been in the second wave, but the government bungled hotel quarantine. We know that's happened. The trouble is we're still in the second wave because we've got completely inadequate contact tracing.
Now, there is, of course, this very strange group that no public servant has any idea how it actually works. It's called business. If you can't open, you can't make money. If you can't make money, you can't employ people. If you can't make money, you can't do crazy things like pay off your own bills, let alone take care of your workers' bills. Here's the business reaction to this thing getting punted to at least the end of October.
I'm totally gutted. There's no roadmap, no leadership. I've had phone calls from staff today all worried about where they're going, and with the numbers that he's saying to get down to 5, it's not going to work. I don't think he's listened to anyone in industry.
So here's the reality. September 13 is the end of the 6-week lockdown period, which, remember, was a couple of weeks after everyone had already been locked in since the start of July. So a couple of little cookies have been handed out, but there's no real change. The curfew's still going to be there, but it'll start 1 hour later. Basically, you'll have to stay at home for all the same reasons as you've had to stay at home for the past 6 weeks. Exercise, however, is going to move to 2 hours a day. Wow, how amazing. About 24% of Victorians live by themselves. They will be able to nominate one person, and only one person in the entire state of Victoria, who will be allowed to come around to their house to try to keep them sane. For parents, you're about to get, among other things, a reopening of playgrounds. Now, if cases stay low by September 13, then regional Victoria gets to move to the next step, but the next step is not a huge step, and the next step is not particularly easy to achieve. Because on September 28, or more importantly, an average of between 30 to 50 cases every day for 14 days, you still have a curfew. You still can't have people over to your house. If you meet people, it can only be 5 people in total for 2 different households. So you, the kids, plus 1 of the grandparents. As for exercise, you might be able to go to the pool, you might be able to have a personal trainer, but that again stays as it has been. The social bubble will be there. And again, no real changes to business. Construction will be able to go back to the site, but not fully. Manufacturing, wholesaling and warehouses, again, but not fully. Now, if regional Victoria is able to get to an average of below 30 cases for the next 2 weeks, they will move to the next step. But again, it's not that impressive. So surprise, surprise, September 28, it'll go on for another month. Because on September 28, or should I say, sorry, then we move to October 26, so that's the next mark after this. 5 new cases or mystery cases for 2 weeks. And that's the only time the curfew disappears, you'll be able to leave your house, you'll be able to have gatherings, not at your place, but 10 people outside. You'll be able to have the social bubble, but that's it. In terms of the businesses, cafes, bars, restaurants, they can't open until October 26 or when there are 5 new cases every single day for 2 weeks. And even then, they're only allowed to have 10 people inside. You can have some buildings outside, some dining outside, but that would require your local council to allow you to do it. Melbourne City Council currently doesn't allow many bars, many restaurants, many cafes to have seats outside. You'll be allowed to have a funeral, you'll be allowed to have a wedding, but again, I repeat, we're not talking about 2 weeks' time, we're talking about the end of October. And then if we get to a scenario where there's no new cases for 2 weeks, we are now talking about November. That's when you can have 50 people outside but not over to your house. You can have 20 people, rather, at home. Cafes and restaurants will still have, despite the fact there are no new cases for 2 weeks, in November, the rules will still be a maximum of 50 people inside a bar, a restaurant or a cafe. Hair and beauty returns, weddings, funerals and faith will move to a grand total of 10 people and they're only allowed to do it outside. So the best case scenario after November 23 is if there are no new cases for 28 days. And there has never been a time in this pandemic when there have been no new cases in Victoria for 28 days. An entire month after November, we are now talking about the week of Christmas is when restrictions will be lifted. Now let's be very clear. Anyone who thought that they were getting out of home detention on September the 13th, well, they've been told by the media that they'll just have to wait another couple of weeks. It's not true. You'll have to wait another 6 weeks. He has effectively restarted the lockdown. Another 6 weeks. Shame on the Animal Justice Party, shame on Fiona Patten, shame on the Greens because they gave him the blank cheque and he's cashed it before the first lockdown had even ended.